Imagine waking up to a world on fire. The ground beneath you isn't just shaking. It's roaring, splitting open. Buildings that have stood for centuries crumble into dust in mere moments. This isn't a scene from a disaster movie. This was the reality for the people of Lisbon on November 1st, 1755. Saints' Day. A day of worship that turned into a day of unimaginable horror. What happened in Lisbon didn't just stay in Lisbon. The shockwaves from this single event rippled across the globe, not just through the earth, but through the very foundations of how we think about science, philosophy, and our place in the universe. This is the story of the day the world seemed to end, and how, from its ashes, a new world was born. It was a beautiful autumn morning in one of Europe's richest and most glorious cities. The churches were packed, their golden interiors gleaming, filled with thousands of worshippers for the All Saints' Day Mass. At around 9:40 a.m., the first tremor hit. It was massive, estimated today to be between an 8.5 and 9.0 on the magnitude scale. For 6 terrifying minutes, the city was violently shaken. Survivors described the ground rolling like the sea. In the narrow medieval streets, stone buildings collapsed, crushing thousands. Churches, filled to capacity, became tombs. The royal palace, with its vast library of over 70,000 volumes and priceless works of art by masters like Titian and Rubens, was utterly destroyed in less than 10 minutes. Centuries of history and culture were reduced to rubble, but the horror was far from over. As the dust began to settle, fires broke out across the ruins. The thousands of candles lit for the holiday service in every church and home quickly ignited the debris, turning the collapsed city into a raging inferno. The firestorm would last for 5 days, consuming what little the earthquake had spared. For those who had survived the initial quake and fled to the open space of the harbor, a new nightmare was approaching. About 40 minutes after the earthquake, the sea receded, exposing the harbor floor littered with lost cargo and old shipwrecks. Then, it came back. A series of 3 massive tsunamis, some towering over 20 feet high, smashed into the waterfront, sweeping thousands more people and the debris of the city out to sea. Lisbon, the vibrant heart of a global empire, was gone. The scale of the devastation was almost impossible to comprehend. Out of a population of 200,000, it's estimated that between 30,000 and 50,000 people lost their lives in Lisbon alone. But the earthquake's reach was global. The tsunami waves raced across the Atlantic, hitting the coasts of Africa, the Azores, and even reaching the Caribbean. The ground shook as far away as Finland. In an age without modern communication, news traveled slowly. But as letters and reports from survivors spread across Europe, a wave of shock and horror followed. People struggled to make sense of it. Why would God destroy a devoutly Catholic city, filled with churches, on a holy day? This question would ignite a fierce debate that would change Western thought forever. For centuries, natural disasters were seen as divine punishment, an act of God meant to correct a sinful humanity. Preachers and theologians across Europe declared the Lisbon earthquake was God's wrath, a clear judgment on the city's supposed wickedness. But many thinkers, who would become the leading figures of the Enlightenment, looked at the indiscriminate destruction and found this explanation hollow. Why would a benevolent God kill innocent children in church? Why would the city's brothels in the Alfama district suffer less damage than its grand cathedrals? The philosopher Voltaire was particularly shaken. He had previously championed a more optimistic worldview, but the sheer, random brutality of the Lisbon earthquake shattered it. In response, Voltaire wrote his famous poem on the Lisbon disaster, directly challenging the idea that whatever is right. He questioned the easy optimism of philosophers who claimed we lived in the best of all possible worlds. His poem was a raw, emotional cry against suffering, and it resonated deeply with a public grappling with the tragedy. He later satirized this optimistic philosophy in his masterpiece, Candide, where the naive protagonist experiences the earthquake firsthand. Through biting humor, Voltaire argued that we must abandon abstract philosophical comfort and instead focus on the real, practical work of improving the human condition. His famous conclusion, "We must cultivate our garden," became a call to action for the Enlightenment. Focus on what we can control, on science, reason, and tangible progress, rather than debating the unknowable will of God. While philosophers debated, Portugal's Prime Minister, the Marquis of Pombal, was taking action. Pombal was a man of the Enlightenment, practical and decisive. His response to the crisis was revolutionary. When asked what to do, his famous reply was, "Bury the dead and heal the living." Immediate. Organized teams to fight the fires and dispose of the thousands of bodies to prevent disease. A radical move at a time when proper Christian burials were considered essential. But Pombal went further. He saw a unique opportunity, not just to rebuild, but to reshape the city and society itself. He commissioned a team to create a new plan for Lisbon's downtown, the Bexa. Out went the narrow, winding medieval streets. In their place came a modern, rational grid of wide avenues and elegant squares. This wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about safety. The new buildings, known as Pombaline buildings, were among the first seismically resistant constructions in the world. They featured a flexible wooden internal framework, a kind of cage designed to tremble but not fall during an earthquake. Pombal's engineers even tested models of these buildings by having troops march around them to simulate tremors. This was a monumental shift. For the first time, a major disaster was met not with prayers and fatalism, but with science, engineering, and government planning. But Pombal's most lasting contribution might be the birth of a new science. He ordered a detailed inquiry to be sent to every parish in the country. The questionnaire asked for specific, observable details. When did the earthquake begin and end? How long did the tremors last? What direction did the ground seem to move? Did the sea level change? What damage occurred? It was a systematic, empirical collection of data about a natural phenomenon. This was the birth of modern seismology, the scientific study of earthquakes. Instead of looking to the heavens for answers, Pombal and his team looked to the earth itself. They were trying to understand the natural causes of the disaster, to learn from it, and to prepare for the future. The Lisbon earthquake forced people to see the world not as a stage 4 divine drama, but as a complex system governed by natural laws that could be studied, understood, and even mitigated. Thank you so much for watching. The story of the Lisbon earthquake is a powerful reminder of both nature's immense power and humanity's incredible resilience. If you found this journey into the past interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Let us know in the comments what historical event you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next video.